On April 1st, 11 teachers from the Atlanta area were convicted of racketeering charges for their part in a huge cheating scandal. Now, these teachers either fed students information for standardized testing, as in answers, or they changed the answers so the students would get higher grades or higher scores. So as a result, they faced racketeering charges, which are usually reserved for organized crime. And amazingly, 11 of the teachers were convicted. Now, the reason why this story is such a huge scandal is because they are facing up to 20 years behind bars for what they did, longer than some rapists get for their crime. So, of course, people are outraged by this. And the community in Atlanta is actually coming together to rally in support of these women who have been convicted. Now, according to a recent report by the LA Times, several hundred people in Atlanta, including one of the 11 educators convicted of cheating, packed Atlanta's first Iconium Baptist Church for a prayer vigil and town hall meeting in support of the convicted educators. Some wore suits and clutched Bibles, others wore overalls and handed out petitions. There was also a number of religious leaders from the community there who were very outspoken against what happened. And in fact, Reverend Frank Brown said the following: "We are dismayed and disappointed at the actions of Judge Baxter to handcuff our educators and to haul them off to jail as if they're hardened criminals." And what exactly did the judge have to say about these women? Well, he's quoted as saying, "They are now convicted felons as far as I'm concerned. I don't like to send anyone to jail, but they have made their bed and they're going to lie in it."
I don't believe him even for 1 second that he doesn't like to send people to jail. I think he likes sending people to jail as long as they're the right kind of people. If that was, you're going to hate me for saying it, you say it's an assumption, but if it was white teachers from Jerry Baxter's neck of the woods, then he would hate sending them to jail. And he'd be, well, am I really going to send Johnny's teacher to jail for 20 years? No, I mean, come on. I know the system incentivizes them to ramp up the test scores because their job's dependent on it, their salary's dependent on it. Golly gee, they did the wrong thing here. They should be fired, but they're not going to.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 11 African Americans from the middle of Atlanta. Off they go, hardened criminals, felons. I hate sending them to jail, but what am I going to do? Felons.
I don't know the race of this judge, so I feel uncomfortable saying that it's a white judge discriminating
Even if
against.
it's look,
but there is a difference in socioeconomic status here. Okay, you're dealing with a judge from a different part of the neck of the woods, as you refer to, and so it's a common thing that we see in our justice system. There's a two-tier justice system where the wealthy get away with murder in some cases, right? Because of things like affluenza, if you can remember that story. And then you have teachers who are going to serve 20 years in prison because they could have lost their jobs if standardized test scores weren't high enough, so they felt pressure to change the test scores. I mean, look, what they did was wrong. They should have been fired. But again, the system is set up against them. If that's the way you evaluate teachers, how do you think they feel, especially when you're taking their funding away from them, especially when they're dealing with disadvantaged youth that are living in poor areas? It's a disaster for them. I don't know why teachers would want to be teachers in America today. Again, it's all set up against them.
Now, look, they should be fired. You can't cheat on the test, obviously. It's obvious, right? But now, look at the message you're sending to teachers. If you live in a rich neighborhood where everybody has a ton of opportunities and they're all going to do relatively well on the test, well, then you're fine. Go ahead and be a teacher there. You live in a poor neighborhood where there's a ton of obstacles in the way. It doesn't mean you can't get past those obstacles if you're a student, but there are those obstacles that makes it harder. And you know that the test scores are going to be lower. You know you're going to have more pressure on you. And if you do something wrong, we could put you in prison for decades.
Yeah.
So now who's going to be a teacher then?
Now here,
in those neighborhoods, crazy.
I would have no interest in being a teacher. I don't care what neighborhood it is, because right now public education is under attack. All the blame is being placed on teachers, and it's all about evaluating the teachers because they're protected by these unions and they're just lazy and they're not doing their jobs. So in this case, the judge could be lenient, but based on his statements in the past, it doesn't seem like he will be. So as I mentioned, all face a minimum of 5 years and a maximum of 20 years in prison for the racketeering charges. However, the judge has the discretion to sentence them to probation or suspend the sentences altogether, which is why this huge group of people got together in Atlanta and they protested and demanded that the judge be lenient in this case. Now, another thing I want to raise awareness about is a GoFundMe account or page that hasn't gotten any attention. The proceeds of this page will go toward the legal defense of these teachers. So if you feel as passionately about this as I do, please, any little bit of money helps. There it is, Funding Fairness for Atlanta Public School 12. So far, they've only raised a little over $5,000, and their goal is to raise at least $1 million. The defense attorneys are planning to appeal the ruling. So again, every little bit helps. And we also did talk to some of the attorneys in this case to see what they had to say about the page. And Gerald A. Griggs says that the purpose of the page is to get help to fund their appeal. And also, this is really interesting. Angela Johnson is another attorney who's representing Pamela Cleveland in this case. And here's what she had to say. My client, Pam Cleveland, is a first grade teacher, and first grade teachers did not count for bonuses. Remember, in the racketeering charges, the prosecutor said, look, they changed the scores because they were trying to get bonuses. That's the thing. That's the organized crime we're dealing with. She did not get any bonuses. Most of them did not receive any bonus money. Only 2 or 3 out of the 12 teachers received bonus money that amounted to less than $2,000. That's what they're going to serve possibly 20 years behind bars for.
None of the Wall Street executives went to jail, and they took home hundreds of millions of dollars for a $2,000 bonus on questionable, total, unquestionable grounds as to whether some of them even got the money or didn't get the money. They face a minimum of 5 years, a maximum of 20. You tell me there's justice in this country? You're telling me that it's the same justice system that applies to those bankers as applies to these people in Atlanta? You must be smoking something if you think that's the same justice system.